Alright, so today we're looking at something that sits right in that really interesting space of budget tech. A 32-inch Roku Smart TV that comes with LED display, Wi-Fi connectivity, mobile app support, and even compatibility with Apple HomeKit, Alexa, and Google Assistant. And the big hook here is that it's also a renewed unit, which immediately raises a couple of questions about value, performance, and whether this actually makes sense in 2026. Now, when you first set this thing up, the experience is very familiar if you've ever used Roku before. It's clean, it's simple, and it doesn't try to overwhelm you with unnecessary complexity. You turn it on, connect it to Wi-Fi, sign into your accounts, and you're basically ready to go in a few minutes. And honestly, that simplicity is still one of Roku's biggest strengths. The interface is fast enough for everyday use. You're not sitting there waiting for apps to load or menus to respond. It just works. You've got access to all the major streaming platforms you'd expect, and switching between them feels smooth enough for a TV in this category. Now let's talk about the picture. You're getting a 32-inch LED panel here, which means this is clearly targeting smaller rooms, bedrooms, dorm setups, or maybe even secondary viewing spaces. The resolution and color output are what you'd expect at this level. It's not trying to compete with high-end 4K panels, and it doesn't pretend to. But for casual viewing, streaming shows, YouTube, or background content, it holds up well. Brightness is decent indoors, contrast is acceptable, and viewing angles are serviceable as long as you're not sitting way off to the side. One thing worth noting is that being a renewed unit means there can be slight variation in condition depending on the unit you receive. But in general, these TVs are tested and restored to functional condition before resale, which is why the pricing tends to be significantly lower than brand new models. Now the smart features are where things get more interesting. You've got full Roku OS integration, which means a massive library of apps and channels right out of the box. On top of that, voice assistant support through Alexa and Google Assistant adds a layer of convenience that you honestly start to take for granted pretty quickly. Being able to control volume, switch inputs, or search for content without touching the remote is one of those small quality-of-life upgrades that actually matters in day-to-day use. Apple HomeKit support also means this can sit inside a broader smart home setup if you're already in that ecosystem. Connectivity is standard but solid. You've got Wi-Fi for streaming, multiple ports for external devices like consoles or set-top boxes, and enough flexibility for a typical entertainment setup in this size range. Now the remote experience is classic Roku. Minimal buttons, straightforward navigation, and dedicated streaming shortcuts. Nothing fancy, but it's efficient, and that's really the theme here overall. So the real question is, who is this for? This is not trying to be your main cinematic home theater display. Instead, it's aimed at someone who wants an affordable, reliable, smart TV experience without complications. Maybe a bedroom setup. Maybe a first apartment. Maybe just a secondary screen where you want access to Netflix, YouTube, and streaming services without spending a lot of money. And in that context, it actually makes a lot of sense. Because what you're really paying for here is not premium display technology, but convenience, smart features, and ecosystem integration at a budget-friendly price point. Of course, there are limitations. You're not getting high-end HDR performance. You're not getting deep cinematic contrast. And you're definitely not getting flagship-level audio. But that's not the target here. The target is simple. Turn it on, stream your content, and move on with your day. And for a lot of people, that's exactly what they need. So when you step back and look at the overall package, this 32-inch Roku Smart TV sits in that category of it just works devices. No drama, no complexity, just straightforward entertainment. And sometimes, especially in budget tech, that's exactly what matters most.